My wife and I were visiting an outdoor cafe, and it was a bakery. And we're sitting outside, and we're eating our lunch. And as we're eating, we noticed that there were all these birds that were sitting up on the telephone lines and in the trees. And every once in a while, a crumb would fall off of one of the tables, and dozens of these birds would literally swoop down out of the sky, and they'd be down there fighting over who was going to get this crumb until finally one of the bigger birds got it, and he was gone. Then they all flew away. And my wife and I were watching this, and we saw it happen like literally a half a dozen times. And so my wife, she's a supporter. She felt sorry for the poor birds that weren't getting any food. So she took a little loaf that was on the table, a loaf of bread. She peeled the hard crust off of it, so it's nothing but the soft center of the bread. And she took the bread and she put it down on the ground, and the thought was, now these birds will just come down and eat this wonderful loaf of bread. So anyway, she puts this thing down on the ground, and we're waiting, and we're waiting. How many birds do you think came down to get the bread? None. None. We were mystified. She picks up the loaf of bread. She breaks it up into a bunch of little crumbs. She throws the crumbs down on the ground, and sure enough, all the birds come swooping out of the trees and out off the phone lines, fighting over the crumbs again. Each one is fighting over those crumbs. And then finally all the bread was gone, they all flew away. Now, anytime I see something like that, it triggers a question in me. Because it was obvious to me that any of those birds could have come down, it's a really soft piece of bread, could have easily picked out and plucked out of it anything that they wanted. And yet none of them even approached that loaf of bread. But yet when there were crumbs down on the ground, they would fight over them, literally peck at each other to get the crumb. And I saw that as a metaphor for life. Because how many of us are fighting for crumbs when there are loaves all around us that we could easily eat, but we don't recognize them as food for us? The birds saw crumbs as bird food. The loaf to them was people food. So they didn't think of the loaf as food for them. They thought the crumbs were food for them. And the point of the story that I'm trying to get to is all of us live in a world of abundance. We truly live in a world of abundance. Everything we want is out there. But when we see big opportunities, we say, that's not for us. That's for rich people. That's not for us. That's for people who've gone to college. That's not for us. And we come up with reasons why somebody else is entitled to the loaf and we're not. And then we end up fighting for the crumbs when the loaves are there for the taking. And part of what I'm going to be delivering to you this afternoon is showing you how things that you thought were food for rich people, or food for highly educated people, or whatever you thought they were, they're not. They're food for you. Again, that's part of this afternoon, too.
Okay, thanks. Round of applause. Thank you, Gordon. All right.